D'Angelo Russell, Ohio State, Emmanuel Mudiay, China. This has been one of the biggest debates of the draft, and according to Draft Express, ESPN, NBADraft.net, and CBS, they're neck and neck in terms of NBA draft ranking. I mean, this is as close as it gets. They're both expected to be picked in the top 5, so who is the better prospect? The best skill between these two, and for me it's not even close, D'Angelo Russell's passing ability. The guy sees the floor incredibly well, on target, very accurate with his passes, sees over defenses, and you bet he'll be doing stuff like this at the next level on a regular basis. Check this pass out, a one-handed spin pass hitting the cutter in perfect stride, and he misses the layup, but watch this again. Notice where the cutter is when Russell releases this pass. Most people would say not even remotely open, but just an incredible pass by Russell that shows off his exquisite passing ability. Now, Mudiay, not the level of passer Russell is, but in his own right, he has exceptional court vision, an excellent passer who can see over defenses. They're both 6'5". Mudiay can make all the passes off the pick and roll. And stop it right there. Is that Kristaps Porzingis? I know, mean, uncalled for, I'm sorry. He doesn't deserve that. No one deserves that kind of comparison. But Mudiay, a very unselfish passer, and I don't want to compare stats too much in this breakdown because Mudiay played in China and only in 12 games, but you can see how their assist-to-turnover ratio pretty similar. Russell is the better passer, but I don't think it's such a disadvantage for Mudiay because he is a fine passer in his own right. Now, where Russell does separate himself from Mudiay is his shooting ability. A 41% three-point shooter in college on a high volume of attempts. He is a very good shooter. He shows great potential in this area, and he's pretty much a lock to be at least a good shooter at the next level. Mudiay, at this stage, is a below-average shooter. He did shoot 34% from 3 in China, but only 57% from the foul line, and he sports decent mechanics, but he's not overly consistent, and you can see how in China, teams could go under his ball screens, daring him to shoot threes, and that is something he'll have to deal with in the NBA if he doesn't start to improve his shooting. Now, where Mudiay excels is with his ability to attack the basket and finish through contact, and he uses his nice athleticism to finish. And he's only 19 years old, he's 6'5". This is an area where he's pretty much a good bet to excel. He's got a left hand, and you can see here he's actually nice moving without the ball as well, backdoor cutting a few times. This is an area where Russell can struggle. He's not horrible at getting to the basket, but he's not great either. He's not the quickest player, doesn't have the greatest burst. And this is a nice chart from DNODraft.com. This chart represents how often a player scores unassisted at the basket in the half court minus putbacks. It's a decent gauge of how well a player can create on his own and get to the rim and finish. Russell ranks in the middle of the pack. I wouldn't put too much weight into this, but it's something that should be taken into account, especially when considering he posted a mediocre free throw rate, an area James Harden, for example, excelled at in college. And he's visibly not the best finisher either. He doesn't like using his right hand, he's not overly explosive, and the stats back it up as he only shot 47% at the rim in the half court. Now let's talk about the athletic ability of both of these guys because I feel there are some misconceptions. Mudiay is a good athlete. He's fast in the open court, explosive, and he can finish above the rim. But he's not a great athlete and certainly not an elite athlete. And I think that's something people often confuse. Again, a good athlete, but I see the comparison to John Wall, and back in high school, this guy was just a freak athlete. Derrick Rose as well.
I want to go higher!
Just an unbelievable athlete, and Mudiay is not on that level. I am aware in an unofficial setting, Russell just recorded a 39-inch vertical, but I put very little weight into these kinds of tests, good or bad. It's just not a great gauge of actual in-game athleticism. Doug McDermott recorded a higher vertical than Russell Westbrook, who's more explosive. I just find these sort of tests to be more misleading than helpful. And this is where I jump off the James Harden comparison bandwagon. Harden is an underrated athlete. This is him in high school. He's not a great athlete, but he's a very good athlete, pretty explosive, and I don't see this in Russell. Brandon Roy, another comparison I often see. Brandon Roy was a very good athlete. He could really get up there. Now, I wouldn't be bringing this up if Russell was so crafty that he made up for his lack of elite athleticism by getting to the basket at will, posting a great free throw rate, but he doesn't at this point. He doesn't have the open court speed of a guy like Manu Ginobili, and it limits him in terms of finishing and creating for himself, getting to the basket at times. He can still get that pull-up jumper whenever he wants, but I just have slight concerns about his athleticism and how that'll affect him on the offensive end. Defensively, at this point, I give Mudiay the slight edge. They're about the same height, Russell and Mudiay. They posted very similar steal rates versus their respective competition. Both of them can lose concentration at times, but Mudiay has considerably better lateral foot speed, which should allow him to stay in front of defenders better at the next level. Here you see him staying in front of some Chinese player. You know, it's not overly impressive. He's not a great defender, but at this point, he gets that edge over Russell. Now on to my favorite part, the player comparisons. I liken Mudiay to a Brandon Knight, a big point guard, maybe a borderline all-star, maybe he'll make a few all-star teams, a good athlete but not a freak athlete, and I'll also roll with the Drew Holiday comparison. With Russell, I'll go with two, an upside and a downside. Upside, I see Chauncey Billups, a really smart player, a great passer, a really good shooter, who just finds a way to get it done despite not the best athleticism, and just a really good all-around all-star point guard. Now, worst case scenario could be somewhere along the lines of Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson is a really good passer, and he showed that off in Detroit. Their stats match up well from college. People forget that Reggie Jackson shot 42% from 3 on a high volume of attempts at Boston College in his final year. So it's just a friendly reminder that shooting in college does not always translate to shooting in the NBA. Is this the best comparison? No. Jackson is a better athlete while Russell is bigger, but as a floor for Russell, I don't think this is absurd. It's very close, but I give Mudiay the slight edge because of the better two-way potential in my opinion, and I also don't think this is a great draft, hence why Mudiay is number 2, though I compared him to Brandon Knight. I hope you're shaking your head at the screen right now because at this channel, we embrace disagreement and debate, and because of that, I put a poll in the description where you can vote on who you think will be the better NBA player. Leave a comment, and let me know if you want to see more draft videos like this, because if you do, I'll try to get them out there. Well, thanks for watching.